No Limit Engineering in Dandridge, Tennessee builds truck chassis that are specifically engineered to accommodate a truck's higher center of gravity. This unique focus gives them a dominant position in autocross, which in turn demonstrates their excellence for pro touring and other applications.
I'm Impy from No Limit Engineering. I'm here with Joe from Borowski Racing Engines, and we're here today to talk a little bit about what we do. Well, our chassis, for one, we engineer everything. I mean, our owner, Rob McGregor, is an actual engineer, and we specialize in trucks and trucks only. We do from 47 to now 98. We're working with the new OBS Chevrolets, so we have that wide range that we specialize in. And we manufacture everything. We manufacture the spindle, the control arms, our cross members, our chassis. Our chassis are 4 pieces here. In this here, it's an inner and an outer rail that's welded together with a truss system inside, and then we cap it. So it gives you a very strong rail. With our cross member, we tie both sides together, so there is no flex in the chassis, which makes for a great autocrossing and a great riding chassis if it's an everyday driver. We have several different packages available when it comes to the shock and spring combination. We use a Viking double adjustable shock. We use a Ride Tech, which is a single adjustable, and we can tune with coilovers, different rates. Our steering, our rack and pinion, everything is designed where there's no bump steer. The spindle itself is kind of a hybrid that we've come up with, and it's designed for the higher center of gravity. The spindle's kind of the key to our suspension because everything starts at the spindle. All the geometry changing. If you don't change the spindle, you can't change the geometry. With the suspension being engineered, where we've moved the coilovers, everything is further out, closer to the spindle itself. It allows us to run different spring rates, get a better ride. If you look at the rear of our chassis, this happens to be a Retro 8 for like a 1950 model. This one's a Chevrolet. We use an 8-inch rail, hence the word Retro 8, place to mount your running boards and stuff. And as we get into the 60s and 70s and 80s models, we go with a 6-inch rail because you don't need all that rail. Mm-hmm. But everything we do, our 4-bar setup, which we call a fat bar, our coilovers, all that stuff is moved to the outside of the chassis, which gives you a wider, more stable base. Think about it being outside in the wind. If you put your legs together, the wind wants to blow you over. If you spread your legs apart, you get a much stable base. Right. And that's kind of the things that Rob's worked on. Rob's been in business over 40 years, and this is what he does. Everything that he does, we build, we prove, we fit. We make sure that, hey, the cab's going to bolt on. We make sure that, hey, the bed's going to bolt on. And, we do our best every day to make sure that our customer's happy with that. Yeah. We have 2 different rail profiles. We have what they call a standard rail, which we like to refer to everything from your stock cab bed just moves over to that standard rail with no cutting and then changing. Then we do a raised rail. The profile of this rail is raised 5 inches on a Retro 8, 4 inches on a ProTech, as we call our 6-inch chassis. And what that does is it lets you raise the bed floor 4 or 5 inches, and it lets us move everything up. So you could get that 5 to 8 inch ride height, which you see a lot of the pro touring being really low on coilovers. Our standard rail, our basic ride heights between 8 and 10 inches, and that's measured at the rocker to give somebody a reference. 5 inches is pretty low. Most people, I want it lower, until they have a 5-inch ride height and they kind of drag the cab and everything else. So we found that happy medium. There are things we can always do to accommodate the customer. Nope, this is what I want. Well, there's things we can do for that, but we have a kind of a base package that works well with a base brake package. Our chassis come complete. Our chassis come with power rack and pinion, front sway bar. It comes with brakes. It comes with coilovers. The chassis are complete. It comes with all the brake lines run. Customers have an option, like on this chassis here, they have chose to run a firewall mount brake booster. So we put our setup here so they can go straight to the firewall. We have another one over here on the end that we'll walk over to. This chassis here is another Retro 8. This one happens to be for a 1955. And if we look at this one here, we have a clutch and brake pedal assembly, and the brake system is all installed here in the center like it was in the factory, where the pedal comes up through the floor, and this is all included in our base price. The clutch and master cylinder is extra, but our chassis come with motor mounts, comes with trans mounts for whatever application. It comes with the urethane motor mounts, it comes with the urethane trans mount, and that's all part of our base chassis, because this is stuff you're going to need anyway, and it's what we do. So there's plenty of options. This is our standard brake package. It's a 12-inch rotor drilled and slotted with a big GM D52 caliper. We do Willwood. There's core brakes, there's Brembos, there's so many different options that we can use, and a lot of guys, this is sufficient. Well, some people want to upgrade and they want to get into the Willwood line. We can do with a 13 or a 14-inch Willwood package, or like on this system here, we can just go ahead and upgrade just the caliper for a better looking caliper than the standard GM caliper. This truck here is a raised rail. It comes standard with our spline sway bar. Like I said, power rack. Holes are drilled for the bumpers. And it's a pretty complete package.
Like normally this is our normal bracket. Well, on higher horsepower applications, we like to have this tube that connects to the back brake, and it really stiffens these up. Instead of them being able to flex around and move, we're welding the tube on the inside, so these are going to be really stiff and stout. So if you're drag racing, you ain't going to have any issues.
This here chassis here, this is a 67 to 72 C10, and the customer, he's putting this on the ground. I mean, he's raising the bed floor all the way up to the top. We call this our Super Slam. We don't do a lot of this. This will be an airbag chassis, but you can see how high the rear end. This truck will have 24 by 15 inch wide rear wheels. So there is no room on the outside at that point to put the 4-bar setup. So we've moved everything to the inside. But on our later model chassis, the 63s and on up, like I said previously, we use a 6-inch rail, and you can see that this one here is ready to have all its airbag mounts. Yeah, this one's going to be for one of our customers that's going to autocross. It's a raised rail. ProTech is what we call our 6-inch chassis, and this one here has the the front and rear rail raised 4 inches, and we've put kind of Nerf bars on the side in case there was ever an incident where they side slammed a Jersey barrier or something. It doesn't cave the whole side of the vehicle in. It's stuff like this that we can do, we do it all the time. And then over here, this is also a raised rail chassis, which is going to be set up for, this one happens to be a 63 to 66, and you can see the front rail profile is brought up a little bit, and the rear, and this will have that 5-inch ride height on coilovers. All of our chassis have our cross bracing, and we get no flex in the chassis that way. We have 4 springs. We use 4 springs. We don't introduce the 5th spring. If you notice on the cross bracing, all this stuff is, it's fixtured, it's bolted, and then this is all welded together. So now the length of this rail is supported all the way through, and it thinks it's one. And we do that by putting it on our twist fixture to show that there is no twist and no flex in the chassis. Rob just did, we were introducing our 88 to 98 OBS chassis, and we twisted a stock chassis, and that thing moves 15, 18, 20 degrees of flex with on our fixture. And then we put
that was with a 100-pound weight, you said?
It's 1,000 pounds. Is what we do is use a 10-foot bar. We hang 100 pounds on the end of it.
Right.
So it's 1,000 pounds of force. We clamp it, and it twists the chassis. We put our chassis up there. It doesn't even move a half a degree. So things are rigid the way they should be, and that's where we pride ourselves in the quality. We got good welders. We just we build every rail on this stuff by hand. So.
Right.
We can do long beds. We can do extra cabs. If the customer tells us what they want, we did a 55 Chevy, actually an Apache, and it had a Borowski racing setup in it, and it had the billet oil pan. I mean, this thing was just amazing, and you missed it by a week. That customer brought it to the actual builder once we got everything done, but we fit the motor and everything, and pretty impressive looking piece.
Yeah, well, I guess that one had the billet intake, the dailies, billet dry
Oil
sump.
pan. Yep, yep. And you know, it's, if you've never seen one, go to their website and take a look at that because it's pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
that's
I mean,
automotive artwork.
yeah, and being a machinist my whole life, when I saw that oil pan, I just lost it. It's like, oh my God, look at the craftsmanship, you know, and the intake's a pretty nice piece. So
Yeah.
here's a couple of the rear ends that we have sitting here ready to go to powder coat. You know, we build a chassis for you, the customer. So, you know, to me, if the rear end's 60 inches wide, 50 inches, or 70 inches, it doesn't matter. We're going to build it for you. And we fixture, this rear end here is ready to go to the powder coat. So we fixture all the 4-bar setups, all the coil over mounts, the pan hard mounts. We set pinion angles, all built into when we fixture one of these. So, you know, we can get these things. This is a standard 50 Ford rear end. And then as they get wider and stuff, things move, but we have fixtures for all that stuff. All of our stuff up here is all tagged. Everything is going to the powder coater, and you know, TL70, he might want a blue chassis, and BR56 might want a gray chassis. So we keep everything separate, and you know, there's hundreds of different colors to pick from. You know, it's your chassis. We're going to build it for you. Over here we have some Ford stuff. This is fairly new to us. We built an actual bolt-in front cross member, which we call our wide ride, for the Ford guys from 65 on up. We're working on this, and this is a direct bolt-in. It completely takes all of the I-beam and the twin I-beam stuff out, and you can see how it all encapsulates the frame. It's all bolted in. With the Ford stuff, they're pretty wide, and it gives you the opportunity. This one happens to have a Coyote sitting in it, but we do them with an FE in them. We can do them with a small or a big block. But I mean, we can run this 12-inch wide tire up front, and it can turn lock to lock. I mean, we have full motion. The rack and pinions are extended. We put an extension in there to get you the full articulation of that rack. You know, this kind of covers the whole realm. And we did the same thing with the rear end. If we walk back here and look at the back of the truck, anything that's blue comes with the kit. This is our bolt-in fat bar kit for these bump side Fords, and we just did one for the later model Ford to where it's a direct bolt-in. There's some cutting and stuff you have to do for the C-notch, but all this stuff you can see comes with all the bolts, all the hardware, and you know, you can purchase a rear end and we can weld the bracketry on, or we supply you with the bracketry. You can weld it on per our directions.
Okay. And I guess in terms of ordering product, it looks like you have a lot of options on your website that you can go through and pick out. And where are you roughly on lead times at the moment? You
know, on chassis, we're 12 to 14 weeks, depending on powder coat or what have you. But when we do a front or a rear kit, it's usually a day or two. It just, we keep all that stuff in stock. It's just a matter of me actually taking it, putting it in the box and sending it out to the customer. And you know, this time of year is very busy for us, tax time, what have you. So, you know, an order might sit here for a week before I get to it, but all this stuff is in stock. It's nothing that I have to custom build. Ford stuff, Chevy stuff, doesn't matter if it's 1947 or 1977. We keep all that stuff in inventory.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's been real interesting seeing your shop here, Impy, and I guess learning how your focus is really lasered in on engineering and performance, that you don't have to go on the racetrack to prove it, but if you go in there, it looks like you're the guys to see.
It is, you know, and I mean, I'm building a truck right now, and it'll never see an autocross track. That's not my thing. It's an everyday or a weekend cruiser, but it's got everything that these do. We just spring it and adjust coilovers for that application.
Okay. So. And your website and phone number?
The website is www.nolimit.net, and our phone number here is 865-940-1503.
Thank you.